So there I was playing my drum in downtown Toronto, and I was just playing away, and I was all sweaty in the summer day, and here was this beautiful woman standing off to the side, and I was shocked, you know, like here she's coming over to talk to me, and I was, you know, I looked like I was a mess, you know, and I stopped, I stood up, I spoke to her. And she said she's from Slovakia. I had no idea where that was at the time. Honestly, it sounded like Slovaki dinner. I thought maybe she was from Greece or something. So she knew from my facial expression. I had no idea. So she confirmed that she was from former Czechoslovakia. And I was like, oh, Czechoslovakia. Oh, I had a friend from Prague. And so we started to talk, and she told me she had traveled to Canada to maybe make some money and go to Africa one day, and she was just interested in, you know, Afro jazz and playing the djembe. And I told her I played there every day on the corner, which was a lie. What I meant was, if you come back here, I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to be waiting for you. And I just was overwhelmed with this feeling that this lady was something more than a possible girlfriend. I just had this feeling that this was a very special person. I guess I was approximately 22 years old when I met her. Good boy, Vida, good boy. So I would go there again, and I kept playing there every day. And about the third time out there again playing, I was just hoping and praying, God, please bring this woman back here. And there she was. She got off the bus, and I saw her, and I was like, hey, wow, nice to see you again. And she had her drum with her. She came and sat beside me, and we started playing together. And in about 15 minutes, we made $30. Like, she was that good. And we were back and forth, and talking, and she would roll and be able to play. She was like, honestly, one of the best female African drummers I had ever heard up to that point. And I was pretty much impressed. And we would meet. I finally got her phone number. You know, I would call her and she would come out, and we started to get together, and we started playing music together. And we had this desire to like form a group, some kind of drumming group with my poetry. And, you know, things were going great. And I had this strange feeling after many years of not talking to my mother about any of my relationships, because I had left home since I was 16. So I basically was my own man. I did what I wanted, but I just had this overwhelming feeling that this woman could be my wife. So I went and I spoke to my mother, and she told me I had better make a move. Hey, better. Get over. Get over. Sit. 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 Sit down. Sit down. So eventually I leaned in for the kiss, you know, the famous first kiss. And yeah, we fell in love, and we went out traveling to British Columbia together. I wanted to show her how beautiful it was out there. To this day, I still believe that British Columbia is the most beautiful place in all of Canada. I mean, the East Coast is great, and there's a lot of places, you know, in Alberta that are just fantastic. I mean, but I wanted her to see British Columbia, where it all went down, where I learned how to play the drum, and all these experiences I had. And even though, you know, I was with her and I started to feel happy, there was something else that was bothering me about her. And it was her faith in Jesus. She was raised a Roman Catholic, and she was very charismatic about her faith, very open about her faith. And she would talk to me about Jesus. And I found that it was starting to really get on my nerves. I just felt like, what is this? You know, why is she being so dogmatic about her faith? And I just felt that, you know, there was something about her that I loved, and something about her that irritated me. And of course, I was being convicted by the Holy Spirit through her. And I didn't like it very much. And so we would argue, we would fight, and one day during one of our arguments and our fights, I was yelling at her at the top of my lungs. And then I stopped. She just walked over to me, she looked at me, and I just stopped. And I said, "I'm not yelling at you, am I?" And she said, "No, you're not." And I started to cry. And I started to shout out at God. I said, "God, where are you? Where are you? I hate you. I hate you." And I realized that I wasn't angry at her at all. I was still angry with God. I wanted what she had. She had a peace inside of her. I wanted that peace, and I didn't have it. And I was truly angry at God still. Well, she forgave me for yelling at her, and she had to forgive me multiple times. And then her visa would come to an end, and she had to go back to Europe. And I was devastated. I was crushed. So she got on a plane. I said goodbye to her. She went to Toronto. And I thought, you know, I was going to go to Arizona with these guys who were making this band, and I was going to go tour the world and be the next coming of Jesus in my head, and my crazy Messiah complex delusional brain. I thought I was the future Bob Marley and David Koresh combined. And I was on this big heavy trip about myself. So I was like, no, I'll see you again, don't worry, and I'm gonna go to Arizona, I'm gonna build this band, and it's gonna be amazing, and one day when it's all happening, I'll write to you and invite you to come out. And of course, after she left the very next day, I was just pouring out my tears. I was a basket case, because I had truly loved this woman. And so I got my welfare check, and I scrambled myself to the ticket agency, and I got a ticket for a trip back to Toronto. And I called my dad. I said, "Dad, we got to get together. I need you to meet with me. We got to drive over to her brother's house. I got to meet with her. I'm going to propose to her. Dad, can I borrow your ring just to propose to her?" I was so poor, I of course didn't have a ring to propose. And my dad met with me at the airport. Immediately we drove her over to visit with her brother and to see her in the middle of winter. And the next day she was getting on a plane to go to Europe. You know, and I went out to a park in the middle of winter. We were freezing, and I got on my knee and I proposed, and I said, "I love you so much. Don't leave. Don't go to Europe." You know, and she said, "No." I was devastated. She said, "Not right now. You have to come to Europe. You have to talk to my father and my mother. You have to, you know, Europe. This is how Europeans are. You know, they want you to meet their family. You know, you have to ask the father for her hand, which is actually a righteous thing." So I held on to this hope that she said not yet. It wasn't a full no, it was not yet. So I brought her back to her brothers, and she left the next day and she went to go be with her family in Europe. And I was staying with my dad, and if you can picture this scene, my father and I for years were at each other's throat. He had been praying for me for years. And here I was, more or less, this poor 21-year-old. The only hope I had in my life was this woman. You know, she had literally saved me from a life of crime and drug dealing and intoxication and throwing up night after night in the toilet, just totally ruining my life. And with her as my girlfriend, I felt like I had something to live for.